Watercolor is a versatile and expressive medium known for its luminous and transparent qualities. Textures in watercolors can be achieved through various techniques and tools. Today we will talk about textures in watercolors, and this is why I decided to take my watercolor pad, A4 size. I will split this paper with a washi tape, and on each part of this watercolor paper I will represent with you different textures that we can create in watercolors. For those of you who are for the first time here, my name is Ala, I'm a sketch illustrator and watercolorist, and from 2020 I'm an art teacher too. Prepare your paper, prepare your paintbrushes. I will be using my Da Vinci Petite Green number 0, and I will just start painting with any color. Don't use just the same color, use whatever you like. I start filling the space with color, and I took one blue color. The first texture that I will show, it is called salt texture. The idea is that we take some big salt, not small one, and we sprinkle it onto wet watercolor paint. This creates interesting textures as the salt absorbs moisture from the paint. The size of the salt grains and the amount of water on the paper will affect the resulting textures, and we leave this space to dry. Let's proceed with another texture. I chose to fill another space, but not just in order. I decided to go in different order. I fill the space with color, the same procedure as I did on my first texture, and this time instead of salt I will take some rice. Yes, you've heard right, I take some rice. The rice as well creates some interesting textures by absorbing the moisture from the paint. As well, it is important to see that the paper is wet enough. Meanwhile, I proceed with the third texture, and I fill the space with color again, and this time we will be using some cling film, food plastic wrap. It is important that the paper, it is still wet. We take a small size of the food plastic wrap, and we just create the texture we need. We just add it on the wet surface. Yeah, something like this. Once it will dry, you will see that the textures are super interesting. Moving on with the next texture and filling the space with another color. During this texture process, we will lift up the color. We will remove paint with a clean, damp paper. We can use a sponge. And meanwhile, the surface it is still wet, we create lighter areas and texture within the painted surface. This technique I usually use for clouds, for lifting up the color when there is done any mistake, etc., etc. This technique that we will do now, it is a very interesting one to create very interesting textures when we want to represent rain, when we want to represent snow in a dark day or during the night. We fill in with the dark color, and for this we take a synthetic paintbrush, a small one, filled with water, not with other color. And we create splashing effect. How we do the splashing effect? Or we add these kind of touches, or with the finger we just create these dots. What happens? The paper moves the color and creates these snowflakes on the paper. Before moving on, let's see closer all the textures that I presented till now, and then we will move with warm colors and with other textures. First thing that I do, I fill the paper with color, and this time I decide to go with warm colors. And during this process of painting on this texture, I will be using hairspray. You will see that the result it is not as visible because the surface is small, but when we are working on bigger sizes, it is really lovely effect that will also move the work from one. Look, it creates small dots, small textures, exactly like we did on the previous work with splashing technique with water. The difference is that because the paper is small, the size where we applied it is small, we cannot see it enough. Moving with the next texture. It happened that a little part of the spray went on this side, and you can see that this part where it is the spray, the color is moving around and is not getting into dark color. Now, taking a thin paintbrush, a synthetics, we lift up the color. On the previous time we lifted the color with a tissue, and now I want to show you how to lift up the color with a paintbrush. Usually we use dry brush or we use with a lot of water, but lightly remove the water to get the color lifted up. It is important that the paintbrush is synthetics, or at least it is not smooth, it doesn't have smooth hair, because with smooth hair it is more difficult to lift up the color. And it creates interesting textures resembling scratches or lines. Another texture is well known to be used on cascades when we want to create some natural effects for cascade. And we take just a simple cards and we also lift up the color. In my case, I took too much color and the effect wasn't visible. But in works like, for example, when you want to represent the nature, you usually paint less water and you scratch it and you create really interesting effects for the water. As well, on the other video, I will explain how to create with this effect different trees. It is also well known for using. Meanwhile, I'm moving to the last texture for today. And this texture is very similar to one that we already did. It is also called splashing effect, but if previously we were using the paintbrush filled with water, this time we take the paintbrush filled with color. And what happens? The colors, because the surface it is still wet, and the splashing effect it is also wet, the colors move one to another and create these interesting dots that are really lovely. And that's it. Here we have all the textures. Now little by little removing all the unnecessary things like salt, like wrapping paper, like washi tapes, and let's see how it looks by the end. I hope you enjoyed painting with me and practicing these textures. If you learn these textures, these will help you a lot on painting different travel sketches. It will help you on stylization of your watercolors and just simply enjoy the process of watercolors and to create these different things and effects. Thank you for watching and wish you to stay creative. Until the next time, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to like this video. Bye!